right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the Southern Region Advisory Council meeting. We'll kick it off with our introduction. We apologize, we're a couple minutes late, working through some technical difficulties. We are here in Cedar City, Utah at the DNR office, not the DWR office, but the DNR office here. And today is August 5th. It's about 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We're also streaming this meeting live on YouTube. I'll give my little introduction that I absolutely love to read every time. This is a public forum that allows us to express our opinions about wildlife management. This RAC will consider everyone's feedback, including those of the RAC members, and report them onto the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board is charged with setting wildlife policy for our state. Wildlife management is complex and sometimes emotionally charged. We all have ideas and opinions about what is best. It's why we're here. We encourage those who want to express their opinion to fill out a green comment card. We have plenty of those outside. Pass those up and we will make sure you have time to comment. We expect those in attendance to respect the people who speak, especially those who hold views that don't align with our own. Respectful behavior helps facilitate efficient meetings where we can listen, digest, and address the concerns, ideas, and proposals being presented. We will not tolerate any disrespectful behavior. Shorten that section. Please help reduce distractions by putting your phones on silent. And if you need to take a call, we can ask you to step outside. First, we'll welcome DWR staff that's here in attendance. And we appreciate our wildlife board members, two of which are watching virtually. Mr. Gary Nielsen and Kent Johnson are joining us online. And we have Miss Paula Richmond here in person. She represents the Southern region. We appreciate her taking time to be with us tonight. Let's introduce the current and new RAC members. We have 3 new faces on the Southern region RAC here. We're excited to have them here with us tonight. We'll probably start with Chuck over here on the end. If you can tell us who you are, who you represent, where you're from, and those new RAC members can tell us even more about themselves, their favorite hobby, if they will. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm Chuck Chamberlain with the Forest Service out of Cedar City.
Chad Utley, public at large out of St. George.
Russ Gardner from Enterprise. I represent Farm Bureau.
Chris Cannon out of St. George, and I represent the Sportsman, and I'm new to the RAC.
Thanks.
Bryant Johnson, Monroe, Utah, and I represent public at large.
Gary Barney, Central Valley.
Very good at projecting. I'm Brooklyn Cox. I'm from the BLM in Cedar City.
Thank you. We've got our 3 new RAC members, Gary, Trevor, and Chris. Appreciate you being here and being willing to support. I'm Austin Atkinson. I chair this RAC and represent public at large. And representing DWR today, we don't have Kevin here tonight. He's off doing something not very fun. So introduce yourself, please.
I'm Teresa Griffin. I'm the Wildlife Program Manager with the Division of Wildlife Resources, filling in for Kevin Bunnell tonight.
That covers everybody. Appreciate it. We welcome those members of the public that are here and those watching on YouTube. This will live forever on YouTube, so we're careful what we say and what we do. The public that are watching on YouTube have previously provided comments, and they will not be providing live comments. Presentations were provided previously, and we've received public comments on those. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda and the minutes. Agenda for tonight, minutes from last meeting. Have any clarification needed, or? Chuck?
I motion we approve the minutes and the agenda.
You got a motion by Chuck to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bryant. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. You can vote on the agenda. You can definitely vote. Okay, you guys are good. It's unanimous. Approval of agenda and minutes. Let's go. Yes.
Austin,
Question.
quick question. I think I was watching one of the meetings and they swore the new RAC members in. Do we need to do that? Or did that already happen for them?
I think that was the board meeting.
Was that the board
wasn't it?
meeting?
That was the board meeting. Yeah.
I don't think rec members are sworn in, right? We get a Bible out if you want.
Maybe that's what it was. Thank you.
I'll cover that in just a second. So now it's my turn to give you a wildlife board meeting update. The last wildlife board meeting, well, the real last wildlife board meeting was June 12th. And that meeting had quite a few motions. So it's typically my duty to go to those meetings as the chair and provide everybody with an update. The dedicated hunter rule amendments to allow for banking of hours in the same year before you've drawn the dedicated hunter permit, that did pass unanimously. So now you can bank hours or pre-store them before you draw. The next agenda item was the conservation permit program rule amendments. Just slight changes there, and that passed unanimously as well as presented. The outfitters guides and spotter rule amendments. That was a little bit of a messy one. The changes to R657-72 were presented, they were discussed, and the revised language provided by the division passed unanimously with 3 members of the Wildlife Board voting in favor and 2 recusals because they were involved in or directly affected by that rule, outfitter and guides. So it did pass as is, and July 1st, that rule went into effect, and there's been registrations happening. Guides and outfitters are getting licensed and hopefully working through that program as is. Agenda item about CWMUs and public land variance requests. The motion was to approve all presented by the division with the caveat that as landowners apply for the program going forward, that they understand there's another option available to them. And that passed unanimously. All the CWMUs passed that had public land. The next agenda item was in regards to WMA or Wildlife Management Area exemptions from license requirement. And that was to include the exemption for federal employees accessing WMAs while conducting their official work duties. That passed unanimously. And that's in alignment with how this RAC voted. And there was a sage grouse translocation motion, and that passed unanimously in favor to approve the translocation as presented. And the motion to approve the possession and release of pen-reared game birds rule amendments as presented by the division also passed unanimous in favor. And the last agenda item was the Antelope Island Memorandum of Understanding. That was the new MOU put out by the division, and that passed unanimously. So that connects DWR with state parks, Antelope Island. At the end of that meeting, they elected Gary Nielsen as the chairman of the Wildlife Board with Paula Richmond as vice chair. Then August 1st, I did not attend this meeting. This was last Friday. This was an emergency meeting from the Wildlife Board that was called, and it was focused around 2 things. That was the introduction of 2 of the 4 new board members. So we got 2 new ones. The ones that were sworn in were Bob Christensen from Altamont, Ryan Fouts from North Salt Lake, and then the other 2 board members, Chris Robinson from Park City and Justin Oliver from West Haven. They were not in attendance at the meeting. I believe they will be sworn in later. So we've got a full wildlife board again, and they were called for this emergency meeting in regards to the Monroe Mountain or Monroe Canyon fire on the Monroe Mountain. And so there was basically everything that was proposed was passed as is with the options. Is that correct, Lindy? So the hunters that have Monroe tags, mainly for the early seasons, up through the mid-October, have the option to surrender their tag, get their points back, get a point for that year, get a refund, or keep their tag as is if they want, or get a variance to extend it to next season. So they have up till the day before the season to do that. I think a lot of people are waiting to see what happens with the fire. Right now, the closure order, I believe, from the Forest Service is through September 30. Obviously, they can change that at any time and open it back up, but that fire is still active. And so that's why the board meeting was called. So there's mechanisms in place, and it could affect the later hunts even into late October and November at the division's discretion. So all those options are only for the Monroe unit. But this was following procedure. So that meeting happened Friday, just last week. Paul has been traveling all around to hit all these meetings, so appreciate that. But I think that's it for my wildlife board meeting update. Is there any questions? Brian?
I just wanted to thank the wildlife board for what they done there to the average person. That's a big deal. And as a customer, it's nice to have that. I had that option in Colorado 3 or 4 years ago, and it wasn't near the fire the Monroe's been. So that was a good thing they done.
It's always nice when we can see quick action to make a decision. Right. So appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 4. This is a regional update, and Teresa gets the joy of presenting that to us tonight. Tell us what's going on, Teresa.
All right, we've all been pretty busy. Adam will pull that up here. Just a reminder, later this month, we are going to be holding some mule deer meetings to talk about how we can grow our mule deer populations. So August 14th, that will be here in Cedar City. August 18th in Richfield. The 20th they're at Ruby's Canyon. All of the meetings will go from 7 until 8:30. So we'd love the public to come and give us their input. And after that meeting, we'll talk about, selecting some members to move forward and have continued discussions with these groups. So we're looking forward to that. All right, our wildlife section. All our biologists have been busy with preseason pronghorn classification and elk classification. We continue to have a few mortalities, so they're doing collar retrieval and necropsies to see what the cause of death is on some of our big game animals. We're monitoring fire impacts to wildlife, so we've been busy with the France Canyon, Forsyth, and of course the Monroe fire. And like I said, the upcoming mule deer meetings. And then we are in the process of updating our deer unit plans, which we do every 5 years after the range trend comes through and reads what the current conditions on the ground are looking like. During the summer, we do water hole counts for Gamble quail. Currently looking pretty poor reproduction. Same with chuckers so far in most areas. Just the lack of moisture is making it pretty hard for production for those animals. Some of the biologists have been hauling water to guzzlers. We're trapping nuisance beavers and moving them into areas that they can do some beneficial work. And then we have had some bear nuisance events, specifically over the last week. We've had some issues there in Marysville Canyon, which we've actually removed 2 females. Our other staff has been conducting our breeding bird surveys. They also participated in the Northeastern region. They had a really successful hummingbird banding public event. They placed bat acoustic devices that can monitor and detect what species of bats. Continuing our non-lead education, and then our prairie dog crew, they've just been completing, got their spring counts completed. We're in the heavy part of trapping, doing development surveys, dusting colonies for fleas and working with the um, municipalities on all sorts of prairie dog issues. All right, our aquatic section. Wildfires hit them really differently. So the precipitation on burned areas causes ash flow and flooding in the streams that kill fish and damage the habitat. So on the France Canyon fire, they salvaged nearly 100 Bonneville cutthroat trout from Blubber Creek, transferred those to Fountain Green Hatchery. They'll be held for 8 to 10 years, while the progeny from these fish will be used to restock streams affected by the fire and drought. On the Forsyth, down on the Pine Valley unit, they attempted to salvage Bonneville cutthroats in Water Canyon, but very few fish were found. The drought has already negatively impacted that population. And then on the Monroe Canyon fire, the water quality in Manning Meadow Reservoir could be impacted by the sedimentation, by those ash flows in the future. And then most of the western toad habitat has burned. So we'll continue to coordinate with the Forest Service. Our Washington County Field Office, the Western Toad, the DWR and Loveland Planet Aquarium released 1-year-old toads on the Ponsagon at the end of July. On the 6th of August, additional toads will be released from Waweep Fish Hatchery and the Omaha Zoo. For desert tortoise, they've been doing long-term spring monitoring that was completed in June with 319 kilometers surveyed. Live adult and juvenile tortoises were observed, but also a high number of recently deceased tortoises. So on the Escalante, the 3 species, they've completed long-term monitoring from sand-washed Boulder Creek, but they had good numbers on flannelmouth, bluehead suckers, and the highest number of round-tailed chub captured since the monitoring began. The southern leather-side chub, they completed long-term monitoring in the middle severe. The initial monitoring was in 2013, and the leather side were well distributed. Out at Gandy Warm Springs in the West Desert, they conducted some rotenone treatments to remove invasive armored catfish back in April and May. And then the spring snails, the endemic Santa Clara herb population survived the Forsyth fire. I had to ask how to pronounce that, even though the surrounding area burned. So they're continuing to coordinate with the Forest Service. On the Virgin River, with the woundfind, the July efforts to collect wild fish for broodstock supplementation was unsuccessful. They're grateful for the support and assistance from everybody. They'll try again in the fall. For willow flycatchers, they have 9 breeding pairs and 9 fledglings. They're monitored removal efforts that will continue through August. Smallmouth bass, they're currently aging fish collected during spring mark and recapture at Quail Creek. The next step will be population modeling to determine exploitation rate, Native fish, monitoring in-stream temperature flows and coordinating with Washington County Water Conservancy District to mitigate conditions as best as possible. Okay, our habitat section, there's some dramatic pictures of our fires. So they're participating in teams for developing rehab for the France Canyon, which was 35,000, the Forsyth, 15,000 acres, the Gap. That one was the one up by Scipio, is that right? 671 acres, and the Monroe Canyon, I think they're up to, was it 68 today? And we are having a Habitat Council tour on August 26th and 27th. So we'll meet on the 26th at the Bicknell Bottoms and tour the Parker Mountain. And then on the 27th, we'll go to the Fish Lake Marinas and Twin Creeks. And you can contact Gary Besant if you'd like to attend those, and there's his information if you want to reach out to him. Our outreach section, this Saturday, August 9th, they'll be doing a Tusher Mountain goat viewing event. That's always a fun one. They just wrapped up the Juvenile Justice Summer Program for troubled youth. Dedicated hunters should check the DWR website for a list of projects in their area. Check their progress online and ensure the checklist, whether they've got their service hour, their ethics and conservation courses. Make sure they've got a current hunting license. Everything, make sure you've got all that in order to receive your tags. Our law enforcement officers have been busy helping with security on many of these fires in the region. Our officer, Jeremy Butler, was promoted to sergeant in the AIS program. I know the wildlife section's really going to miss Jeremy. He's been fantastic. So, in addition to regular patrol and case investigations, officers are trying to educate voters that they need to stop at the new Kanab AIS inspection station. Many boaters are not stopping for that inspection. So hopefully we'll get people educated on that. And that's all we've got.
Thank you. Think of it if you have any questions for Teresa. I have a quick one. As far as these meetings that we start next week for the mule deer, can you give us any insight? What's the format there? Is it Q&A? Is there a presentation, roundtable? Do you have any idea?
We'll kind of do an introduction, and then our director, Riley Peck, will have a short video for us. And then Adam, here with our outreach manager, he will do some Menti surveys with the group. So we'll ask him a series of questions and kind of build some feedback. And then we'll kind of do roundtable and get people's feedback, you know, whether what units you're interested in, you know, if you have ideas about different habitat projects or high mortality or predator issues. So we're hoping to get a lot of interactive feedback. So hopefully those are productive.
Is it fair to say something like this has never been done at this level before?
We've tried different ways, but we're trying to do it differently and really engage and work better with our partners.
Yeah, so, and that's open to everybody, any member of the public, RAC, anybody who cares about mule deer, wants to talk about mule deer, invite them to attend one of those meetings. They're across the whole state, different dates. If you can make it, please be there. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to first big action item we have for tonight. We've got a pretty simple agenda this evening. It's a good one. So we're going to go to agenda item number 5, recommended changes for some R657 rules with Lindy. And we'll turn the time over to her and then open it up for questions. Lindy, do you have anything to introduce us to your agenda item? Yeah. I'll explain it just a little bit if you're not familiar with the RAC process. So back in the day, Linda used to have to give an entire presentation and a PowerPoint or any of these presenters, and we would try to absorb all of this information and make decisions immediately. So now since COVID, we have the presentations available online. She records herself and presents everything with her PowerPoint. We're supposed to watch it and the members of the public so that she doesn't have to repeat it all here. It helps the meetings go quicker. Usually we ask if there's any changes or clarification needed. We can open up for questions or she can give us a 60-second briefing on it. So. Okay. So Linda, you have 3 different topics. So this one is surrenders and variances. RAC members familiar with that topic? Looked at it? Okay. Let's dive into questions. How about that? Open it up to questions from the RAC first.
They're all different, sorry.
All right, this is Lindy Varney. She's up on the mic.
It's a technical difficulty day, guys.
We got you. Any questions on this side? Okay, I got a couple questions. How is it determined on variances or surrenders, like what we just did with this emergency meeting, we have some hunters saying, well, what about Pine Valley? You know, it burned some of my unit too. Or what about Ponsagant? What is that level? Where is the threshold where you guys can say, we're going to call an emergency meeting or not?
So the variance rule does not include any natural disasters within it. So the rule that we're presenting today does not include that, but it's all dictated by the director. If the director wants to call emergency board meeting based on the events that are going on.
Okay.
He's the one that initiated that for natural disasters. So currently, none of our rules address anything with natural disasters. However, Director Peck has taken initiative to direct me to come out later this year with some language to help with natural disasters.
Okay.
Guidelines. So we don't have to call emergency board meetings.
So nothing.
But that'll be later, like way later this fall.
Okay. So currently nothing happens.
Yep.
Unless a board meeting is
Correct,
called.
unless it's emergency board meeting. Only right now the board has the authority to do something like that.
So the answer is if the forest is closed, if the majority of your unit is closed, we say sorry,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yep. We don't have any rule that allows us to give them any kind of relief.
Sounds good. Changing 120 days to 30 days. I'm still just trying to understand that if someone gets a permit and then they forget to go on the hunt and then they get a cold during the hunt, I mean, the hunt can totally pass and 30 days later they send you a letter that says, give me a variance.
They can currently under the rule that it is. So that's like 5 months, that as long as they send a doctor statement saying that this occurred during their hunt, it could qualify as a variance. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is to stop some of that. A lot of it also is for eligibility issues. But a lot of our variances that get turned in closer to that 90 to 120 day timeframe, law enforcement does look into those and has made some cases of people actually out there hunting.
Gotcha. Because you can't hunt for more than one day.
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay.
You have to be substantially precluded, and that means more than one day. You're out there in the field, you do not qualify.
So help me understand on the Monroe Mountain, for example, those that choose, I believe it's option 3 and get these variances there. Is that an extension or a variance?
It's just an extension. It's
Okay.
not considered a variance. We're just the board approved just to extend their hunt.
Will we see those permit numbers when we go to approve permit numbers in
Yes.
April? We'll
Yes,
see how
we'll
many
very-
carried over, just like we did with bison. a few
Correct.
years
We'll
ago.
be very transparent on that when we take it through this spring with the biologists.
What about with these that get a variance because they got sick or couldn't go on their hunt? Do we see those numbers next
Do
year?
not, they're so small
Okay.
that it doesn't make a biological impact. So the biologists have felt fine with those. About a decade ago, we changed the variance rule because we used to allow season extensions for limited entry and once in a lifetime. And that was making a biological impact. And that's why we only do season extensions for the once in a lifetime species now. So if it's a limited entry permit, they only get their points reinstated.
So if someone draws a sheep permit this year, once in a lifetime,
Mhm.
and they don't go because they get sick, and we bump them to next year, you
Mhm.
tell me if that's a variance or extension.
That's a variance that
A
approves to
variance.
extend their hunt to next year.
And they go next year, we still approve an additional sheep tag in there, and
Correct.
there may only be one permit, and now there's 2 next
Correct.
year.
Yep.
Okay, but we're not gonna subtract the
No.
public draw permit.
No.
Okay.
The ones for Monroe will,
Sure.
but a current variance right now, we do not extract it from the proposed numbers for that next year.
Okay. And personal illness, the form is just if your doctor says you had an illness. Is
Yep,
that fair?
that is right. Yeah, we don't require them. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you if your cold was bad or not. And that's the hard part. But yeah, if the doctor, it has to be an MD, DO, or PA. Can't be like a registered nurse or a nurse practitioner. Has to be from an actual medical position. If they're saying that you are unable to hunt, we take that physician's word for that.
And the refunds stay the same? Everybody can get a refund now except for general season, correct?
For Monroe,
No,
Or-
sorry, just
in
generally in your
general,
rule.
yes. For refunds, if it's medical, they would get a refund. But if they go through the variance process, they actually don't qualify for refunds.
But they don't pay again next year either.
No, if it's extended, but if it's a limited entry and just get their points back, they still don't get a refund. Because state code says their tag has to be turned into us before the end of the season to qualify for the refund.
Got it. Okay. I'm fresh out of my questions. Sorry. Anybody else?
It's a complicated process.
It's complicated. Okay. Any questions from the public? All right. Teresa's going to share the public comments that we received on this in the vote.
So for the public comments, we had 3 people comment, and all 3 of them strongly agree.
A weighted average of 5, probably.
Yeah, a weighted average and no actual written.
Perfect. Lindy's going to take that as a win. So, all right. Public comment. I have one comment card. It doesn't apply to this agenda item, but we would love to hear your comments, sir. So I think we can take that now. This microphone's working here, maybe. We'll turn this microphone on, Mr. Bill Lane, and you'd come up and state your name. Thank you for joining us here, Bill.
I'm Bill Lane. I live in New Harmony. I put together, give you a little background. I've been involved with the wildlife here a little bit. I put together the first 3 years of the Mule Deer Foundation, brought the Mule Deer Foundation to Cedar City and ran it for 3 years. Then I moved on to helping build a National Army Museum, and I've been busy with that. What brought me here today, though, was the 25% increase in the cost for a one-day fishing license. I know it says 3 days, but let's face it, when people bring their kids up here, their grandkids, their great-grandkids, and want to take them fishing, because everything else that's here in southern Utah, you don't spend all that time out fishing. So you spend $44 now for one day fishing for one young person. That's a little high considering the rates in California, where you would think it would be higher because they charge more for everything, right? Well, not really. In California, it's $20.52. We're paying $44. In Arizona, it's $20 for an adult, and they have a youth program so that they get $5 for a youth to get him involved with fishing. Of course, some people think that they're charging more at these other places because they have better fish. I don't think that's quite right. Let's keep going here. Arizona, $20 for an adult, $5 for youth. Colorado, $17.64 for, that's a one day, this is all one day fishing permits I'm talking about. The only one charging mandatory 3 days is Utah. Nevada, $19 for an adult, $15 for a youth. The youth program helps to bring these young people in and also keeps people from, when you start charging $44 a shot, and like I had my grandson up with 2 of his friends that had never caught a fish, and we went fishing. We bought the license, so that was $132 for 4 hours on the lake fishing. But between the 4 of us, we ended up with 16 fish. We were right on target. And these boys, for the first time in their life, caught fish. Well, I paid the fee. Okay, I could do it. But there's a lot of people out there that can't. And I guarantee you, you keep charging rates like this, people aren't going to buy a fishing license. They'll just fish. And so you're losing that. You're making criminals out of people by raising the rates this high. I mean, Oregon, $23 for an adult. Youth, $5. I mean, it's absurd that we've gone that far. A 25% increase this year alone, from $31 to $44. 31 was high, out of scale with the rest of the states around us. And I checked each state. So somebody's not thinking. And you're not going to get the youth out there. You're going to make criminals out of people because they're not going to pay. If they've got 3 young people with them, they're not going to pay that $132. So I don't know if anybody cares or wants to do anything about it, but I think you should look at what's going on there. And if there's anybody, if nobody wants to do something from the boards, then we need to go to the press and let the press bring it up. I don't want to do that.
Thank you, Bill.
Don't need that with the other trouble that there's going on right now with wildlife.
Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate those comments. And like you say, we are all concerned with the price to recreate and hunt and fish, and appreciate those comments. This meeting, and we're talking about licenses and permits, and I know next meeting we'll be talking about fishing as well. So it's very timely. All right, we're going to, that ends public comment. Let's open it up to RAC discussion. Anything needed on this agenda item for surrenders and variances? Any RAC discussion, or we can entertain a motion?
Motion that we adopt the recommendation.
We got a motion by Chad,
I'll second that motion.
a second by Chris. Any discussion needed? All right, let's vote on Chad's motion to approve as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. Or unanimous. Got that, Teresa? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to bring Lindy back up again. She wanted to divide this into 3 sections for us.
I got yelled at before if I didn't, if it was too big. One time when I just put it all in one presentation. So I learned my lesson.
So this agenda item is the sportsman's draw and group applications and some adjustments there. Everybody had a chance to review that? Any questions for Lindy? Hit your mic there, just to make sure.
Is this the one that was moving
Yes.
them, some of them from a Sunday to a Monday or Sunday to a
Cor-
Saturday?
Correct. If the September 1st date fell on a Sunday, we would move it to August 31st. And then a few hunts that start, well, one hunt that starts on August 1st, the bison. If it started on a Sunday, we'd move it to August 2nd. The reason for that is because we typically try not to hunt in July. And so biologists didn't feel comfortable starting it on July 31st.
That answers my question.
Yeah.
I just wondered why some were moving back to a Saturday and one was moving to a
Yep.
Monday.
And that's the reason why the biologists didn't want to go into July.
Also have other things that happen in July, like your trail camera season ends, the flying restrictions end. So they want to always stay away from July where
They do.
possible.
Yep.
Good question. Any other questions? Right?
Lindy, in regard to the sportsman's tags, the $10 fee that you pay per species, or if it goes to 15 or whatever, I think we approved up to 15. That might be for the expo tax.
Oh, for the expo? Yeah,
I guess that's the expo.
that's just the expo.
Anyway, the $10 fee, does all that money go to those who are conducting the draw, or
No.
does it help fund you guys?
Yes, the majority of it comes back to us. Currently right now we're with System Consultants, and right now it's about $2.50 that we pay the contractor, and then the rest of it comes back to us. We actually are switching contractors on September 1st to Aspera, and that price is actually going down per app. Can't tell you how much it is, but it's a lot lower.
Okay.
The majority of it comes back to us.
That's the second part to that question. With that being the case, would it be beneficial to have the sportsman drawing in conjunction with the regular drawing draw the sportsman tags first, because of course they're the most sought after tags. And this will go into our other part that we're talking about. Then they would still be able to get their point for the species they'd applied for.
So conduct it still in March, like this?
Yeah, just conduct it with the regular draw, because I
That
think
would-
you are missing out on a whole lot of people that are out hunting in November. They forget about it.
That is a possibility.
And
You
it
know, that-
might
that-
help you out.
That does fluctuate, that applicants, that would, if we moved it into March, that would affect the bear because that season starts before the application would close. Turkey.
You could put them all with their regular draw for that
you
species. though.
Could. That's something that we could definitely consider and look into something like that. That would take just to relook at everything.
Okay, and
Not a bad idea.
I'll get in further,
Mhm.
when I get to the comments, and I'm going to recuse from voting on this because we'll get into that in a minute.
Other questions, Chuck?
Yeah, how much pushback did you get on the allowing people to buy points if they draw on a sportsman tag? Did you get any pushback at all statewide or?
So far, no.
I need to follow up with that. What are you going to do of all those that didn't get to buy their point in years past that have drawn sportsmen?
The current rule is for moving forward, starting with this 2025 sportsman. We typically don't go back just because where's the clean cutoff date? Like, do we allow 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 33 years ago when this started? And so, moving forward, we said that we would start fresh with the 2025 applicants moving forward. Coming
And-
up with that date is just so
Yeah.
hard.
If somebody draws a limited entry species for the sportsman, do they incur the waiting period?
No,
They
Not-
do not.
not for limited entry.
So your proposal is they could buy a point, say they drew deer, limited entry sportsman, they could buy a deer point that year as well
Correct,
and be able to apply the very next year. No waiting period for them.
correct.
Okay.
Because right now, they can apply for a different species of like limited entry. We're just saying that you're now able to apply for the species that
species.
you weren't eligible to apply for.
And then where are group applications not allowed? I know you're adding it to the management buck,
Mhm.
but where else are they not allowed currently?
Not in the big game rule, that's it.
Okay.
Other than you've got like your bear can apply as a group in the bear application. That's because there's low numbers for each season, so that's kind of impossible. A lot of people would be excluded from the drawing. Yeah, and then our once in a lifetime species.
Brian, do you have another question?
I guess my question with what Austin brought up there was part of what we're doing here is trying to clear up this rule because it should have matched the other rules with the other draws prior to this. And I'll just get it out in the open right now. I drew the sportsman tag in 2022. It was a buffalo tag. I was not part of the RAC at the time. And when the draws came around, I was unable to get my point for my once in a lifetime species. I didn't want to draw the tag. I just wanted to be able to get my point so I didn't fall 10 plus years behind in the sheep pool. And I was unable to do that because I'd drawn the sportsman buffalo tag. Well, when you look at the other draws, the expo, you can draw that tag, you can still put in. That one you can actually draw your other tag and then choose. Is
No.
that right? That used to be the
It
case.
used to be
though.
the case, but that changed.
But they can still put in and get their
Yes.
point correct.
Correct.
If you're in the regular draw and you draw, say, your deer, and then you get your point for your once in a lifetime. And so the sportsman drawing, in my opinion, is a moneymaker for the division. It's something that everybody wants if they could ever get it. And I was lucky to get a buffalo. It was not my once in a lifetime species though of choice. And so I fell 10 years behind in the sheep pool by not being able to get that point. So I wrote a letter at the time and to the director and the wildlife board. And I spoke with Kevin Albrecht at the time. he took it to the wildlife board or committee and to the director, Justin. Kevin called me back and he says, hey, I think you're going to be happy. This was an oversight that this hadn't matched up to the other rules. He says, and I think you'll be able to get this done and you'll be able to get your point because it should match the other rules. And fast forward till now, and I know I've asked you several times, but it took 2.5 years for this to come up, yet other things can come up right then. So if we're clearing the rule up, you know, it should. I actually am glad it's going to be fixed. I would love to go retroactive because it should have matched the other rules because of that reason. It does, 1 year on a sheep point means a lot. And if it needs to incur a waiting period for deer, I incurred a waiting period of never again on my once in a lifetime because it was a buffalo. And I actually ended up mentoring that tag to a daughter. But yeah, it's not something that comes up very often because if somebody draws their once in a lifetime tag that they're actually applying for in the regular draw, it's not going to matter. But if you draw another one, then yes, it becomes.
And you are correct. That did happen. Unfortunately, it has taken that long. I'm not trying to put blame on anything or anyone, but it has taken that long to get on the agenda. I've kept being bumped several things because of other pressing matters, and unfortunately, when I got this opportunity, I'm like I said, I totally understand, and it's not to blame anyone or putting blame, saying, but that it did take that long to get on the agenda to correct this rule because it was an oversight because we do allow it for conservation expo, and then this one was the oversight.
And I'm not trying to blame
anybody.
I totally appreciate that it did get here.
Yep.
At the time that I wrote that letter,
Yes.
It was part of the reason when they called me back and said, hey, I thought, hey, they're listening.
Yep.
And I had been to many RACs and I'd seen we don't get much turnout. It was part of the reason that got me to apply for the RAC. And
no, we appreciate that. And like I said, I do apologize that it's taken that long to get this through. And, you know, you guys have the discretion to make that recommendation as your motion, but typically we don't go back just because then at what point do we draw the line, even though I understand the situation.
I won't be voting. I won't be making a motion. So
No,
thank you.
But yeah.
Well, your input is valuable.
It's out in the open now. So.
All right, the target's been drawn. So any questions from the public? Summarize public comment. Did we have some on this one?
For this one, we again had 3 people comment, 2 strongly agreed, 1 disagreed. So a weighted average of 3.67. And that comment was they disagreed that if you draw the sportsman's tag, you should be able to apply for a point. They wanted it to remain how it is currently.
All right, I have no public comment on this agenda item, so we'll open it up for RAC discussion. Just to be clear, because there's only 10 or so of these. I'm not very good on my species count for the sportsmen's. There's still a bear and 11 with mountain lion. Or is that without? 10. Sorry. 10 sportsman's tags since we've been doing sportsman's tags is not that many people. But you would have to go, if you said retroactively back, you would have to ask every one of those what point they would have bought if they drew a once in a lifetime. Correct?
Would you have to ask them, or could you put it out that this is in effect, you have 60 days if you were one of these in the past to come and let us verify? There can't be a handful of them. And it was simply an oversight is what I was told.
Sure.
And it's just like what you brought up about the incurring a waiting period on mule deer. To me, that would make sense. You would incur a waiting period for the mule deer.
Right.
I incurred never draw a buffalo again because of it's a once in a lifetime. But at the same point, it will match the other rules to where you can get your point. And if I'd drawn my desert sheep, this would have never got brought out in the open because I wouldn't have cared. I'd have been incurring my waiting period at that point for the species I put for it.
If it was retroactive, there would definitely be a manual lift in there. So I've always looked at the sportsman's draw as not a black eye, but it's a forgotten stepchild of the draw, right? We run it in November when nobody even talks about it. It's outside of the expo and it's residents only. You look at how many people participate in the sportsman's draw, it's nobody is the answer. When you compare it to other states, it's a drop in the bucket. Last I looked, there are just a few thousand people that apply in the sportsman, like 20,000 each hunt. And it's a pretty low number compared to the amount of applicants we have statewide. Tag, they need to shut up about it. That's great, but you're messing with people's entire strategy, life, and hunting plans. I know that's messy to understand, but it's the truth of it. So if there's something we can do to rectify that situation going backwards, like I would be in favor of that. Just make it the best we can.
I would just add to your comment that is very important to someone putting in for a sheep hunt where they are brutal. If you're putting in for the Escalante unit, to draw it before they're told to do it. So.
Any other discussion or?
How big of a can of worms are we talking if we were retroactive? You said there's not that many.
Oh, there would be hundreds and hundreds, yeah, to deal with. Customer service, just thinking through that would be an absolute nightmare, but I think it could be done. But like you say, you get to everybody. Brian had suggested, if he's give them a 60-day window to tell us what point you would have bought in that year that you did draw the sportsman. And if they miss that 60-day window, then what do? There's always the ands that I know it'll just become a nightmare, but.
You have to have correct didn't get notice.
It's on.
It's on.
Yeah, it's messy. Utah's one of the few states, as far as I know, Lindy can tell me if I'm wrong, but they never purge your points. So your points stay even when you're dead. You still have points in the state of Utah. They just stay static. And so you could go back and just give everybody a point, give them one for everything that they wouldn't have been able to draw, because they're only going to have high points for one of those species, Bryant. But I don't know if that would fix the problem.
I understand. And to your point, what you just said, it might be good to purge points because there's probably people using that dead person's application to up their point levels along the way and pay for both tags, and another person just don't go hunting that's dead. So
You're just trying to double down on his can of worms over here.
So just want some clarification on that idea. They're marked deceased in the system, so they can't use their points, even though they still reside there. You can't use it because they're marked deceased. And the only way we know if they're marked deceased is someone calls us. So if we were to purge points, the same thing if they called us, has passed away and they had points. But if they're marked deceased, no one can touch their points regardless if they're there or not. So it wouldn't affect if they got purged.
if no one calls you though,
Yes,
somebody could keep doing
our
that.
law
It
enforcement
is,
is very active on that. and has
do
been-
they go back and
Oh,
look
yes.
at that? Okay.
They've made several cases and they're very continuously watched. Going back to if we were to allow all sportsmen's permit holders, to choose, you're looking over like 300 people over the last 30 years. That could change people's the ways they applied or if they've drawn out. It would be a huge admin overhaul and how people actually applied. And then they would say, well, if you would allow me to do that, I would have put all my points to deer. So now I want to switch all last 20 years to deer. So it is a huge domino effect if you went back in retroactive. That's why one reason why we don't. So take that into consideration when you're thinking about that, because it could change the whole strategy of everything. If we say, oh, you could have now applied for deer. They're like, well, I now switched to elk. So I got 20 points for elk. Can I switch all those 20 points to deer? And how do we deal with that? So it is a huge domino effect that could occur if you did for the sportsmen. Sorry, I just needed to
Thank you, Linda.
voice
No.
that.
We appreciate your clarification. Any other questions? Entertain a motion. Chad?
I guess I'll motion again. Motion to approve the recommendation as
Okay. Got a motion by Chad to approve as presented for the sportsman's draw and group application modifications. We have a second.
Sorry.
I think Trevor almost beat you, but Chuck gets a second on that one. All those in favor?
We'll make an amendment to the motion.
Oh, let's hear what Gary has to say.
Okay, my amendment to the motion is that we go ahead and put in for your sportsman tag if you don't lose.
Just to clarify, for that
For that.
species,
if you draw. Like Brian lost a point.
sure. I'm trying to think how that would work. Just to be clear, because if it was a once in a lifetime, you would have a waiting period, so your points would be null and void anyway. Correct, Lindy? Do you want to keep running that amendment? You understand what I'm saying? If
Yeah,
you,
I just don't want us to lose a point again like Brian did.
I know.
I know people that don't play the sportsman, basically the icing on the cake,
Mhm.
because they don't want to lose they have high points for different species and they don't want to lose them like Brian did.
Gary, just so you.
Yeah,
that is exactly what the
This will fix it.
recommendation
All
will
right.
fix.
Brian's point is it's 3 years late for him. Do we need to take a pause? Okay, so no amendment, correct? Okay.
We're good.
No amendments. So we're going to pause just for a second. We've got a motion by Chad and a second by Chuck. We're getting ready to vote. But we're going to pause and see if YouTube died. Is that what we're doing? The amendments. So we're live. Okay. Feed is working. We're going to repeat the motion. The motion was made by Chad on this agenda item to accept as presented for the Sportsman's Draw and Group application recommended changes. And that was seconded by Chuck. And so now we're going to go to a vote. All those in favor? Chad's motion, raise your hand. We got 7 in favor. Bryant, you recuse yourself. Okay, so 7 in favor, 1 recusal. Motion passes. Okay. Still rolling live. Here we go. Last agenda item, recommended changes R65773. Back with Lindy again.
I really just love being up here with you guys, so I just wanted to be like my show.
We appreciate you being here.
Okay, any questions? So just, I wanted to just, there's no like changing the rules or anything. I just wanted to clarify because this has been a question amongst the last 2 regions. The RACs, when I've taken this out, this is a new rule that we're creating. And it's still allowing you to either physically tag or use electronic tag. It's not saying it's strictly electronic tagging. I just wanted to clarify that because that has been a big topic. They thought we were just making it straight e-tagging.
So it's an
not.
and or.
You can either physically tag your animal or you can electronically tag your animal. We're not making you pick straight e-tagging. We're not taking away the physical tag option.
Okay, let's open it up for questions from the RAC. I'm sure we've got a few. Bryant?
So if you e-tag and you're out of service, it'll work similar to the Deadhead app where when you get service, it'll then send where that tag took place.
You have to reopen the app. When you get into service, you open the app and it will download all of that data into our database.
What if you were to get stopped between the kill site and service
They can still see, like when you pull it up, it's still like
on your
hosted
phone?
on the phone, but it's not, hasn't been downloaded into the database. But so when you get into service, once you open it back up, it will download all that into the database, but it stores it right there and you can still see the information if you get stopped.
And if I remember correctly, did they ask that you send pictures into with it
Correct.
of the
Yes,
kill
you have
site?
You have to have your location turned on, so it detects your location. And they just changed it to 3 photos instead of the 4. That was just made a change end of last week. So there's asking the side, and the front be submitted.
Thank you.
Have we tried it? Does it work?
Yeah, no, we did an experiment, not experiment, but like a trial of it like a year and a half ago with turkey. And it worked great. And then we've just improved it since. And so we're just trying to put the rule in place so we can move forward and implement it.
Okay, Lindy, I got some questions.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Sorry.
Little bit of, we're opening up some things here. So help me through it. Purchase waiting period time. Tag utah.gov for elk. Can I use it 10 minutes later?
Yes. If you're able to download it, you got to make sure when you purchase it, you have service to download to the app. Then yes, you can.
I got service everywhere because I got Starlink.
Yep.
So that's okay. There's no 24-hour, there's no nothing. You can purchase it, validate it.
Yep.
Same day.
Correct.
Okay. E-tagging this fall, when will it be ready?
Later
Archery
this-
hunts?
No,
No.
because the rule doesn't even go into place until you guys, it
21st?
goes to the wildlife board on the 21st of August, and then there's the other comment period, and then rolling it out. So we're hoping later this fall. We don't have the exact date, but later this fall, we're planning to have it out if everything gets approved.
Will it require a new update to the app or
Yes.
is the feature already in the app?
Nope, it's not out. It's not there.
Okay.
We update the app.
Okay. The location issue. The most you've ever asked for a location is, what does it say? Canyon or drainage,
Mhm.
if you know it, whatever, and we can type whatever we want in there, symbols.
Yep.
Is there an option to do that or on the e-tagging, or is it going to be, it has to connect to your phone's GPS only?
Yes, it has to connect to your phone. You have to have your location turned on. And that, we've had that question, and I've talked to the biologist, and this is just to get better data, better location of where the harvest is taken. Because right now, you can type in none of your business, canyon, and we get
Correct.
that a lot. And then this is just another tool to get more information so our biologists can have better information out there about where the herds are, where the harvests are being taken.
Sure.
And if you don't want to give your location, you can do a physical tag still. If that's your thing and you don't want to give up your location, we're not taking away the option to physically tag it.
Now, I can go submit a public grammar request right now and get all your harvest data for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
What's going to protect that data
We've
from
already
future
we've
requests?
worked through it and made it classified information. That's one reason why
The
it's taken
photos as well?
the photos and the location. That's why it's taken a little bit longer to get this to come out, is because we wanted to make sure that was protected. That only our biologists that need it for their jobs have access to it.
Yeah, and what does that list look like?
Our biologists that need it for their jobs.
You guys hire part-time or no?
Nope, I'm looking at Teresa.
Just kidding.
I've shot a lot of chuckers in none of your business. Canyon.
Exactly.
I'm just thinking through the issues. I'm
No, and
all
that's,
for e-tagging
Yeah.
and for the best data and accurate and it's timely.
no, these are great
and
questions. and
Everything.
They need to be out there, and people
See-
need to be aware what they're doing when they're in an e-tag.
Right.
We're not here to collect the data so we can use it for our personal use. That's not why they're requesting it. They want it so they can have better data. So when they do get asked the questions about locations of the
Mhm.
herd, they have better location than, none of your business, canyon.
So there's no way to manually input it.
Nope.
Like, I know a lot of people that do not hunt with their location turned on their phone,
They would have to-
not on their photos.
They would have to turn it on, or they would have to, when they went
Okay.
to e-tag, it would say it's not turned on, you'd have to go enable it.
And then the photos, they can be of the evidence of sex. They can be of the,
They were requesting the two sides,
Antlers.
the antlers, the side, one side, left side, right side, and then the front.
no evidence of sex, even on antler lists. It's just picture of the head.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm concerned that nothing is placed on the carcass, right? So like in New Mexico, they went to e-tagging a few years ago and it generates that electronic harvest code,
Mhm.
even if you're out of service. And in New Mexico, for example, they tell you must affix something to the carcass with that code on it, write it on a pen, paper, permanent marker, flagging tape, duct tape, whatever, something on the carcass. You're saying I put my phone in my pocket and then I just drive home with an animal with absolutely nothing on it.
Yep, because if you get checked, you still need to it's on you. So in the rule is saying that it needs to be in your possession. So then when you get checked,
The
that
rule does say your possession. I can't have my buddy drive it off the mountain for me.
it needs to be in your possession.
Okay. I can't leave all of that animal or part of that animal.
What do you mean all like,
So my buddy's going to drive the meat to the meat locker.
Yeah.
I've still got the antlers in camp.
they need to have that to harvest code with them. It needs to be in the possession.
A code.
Mhm.
So I could let my buddy drive it or take possession of it if he
They have
has
to have
this
that code.
code.
Mhm.
Okay. Because there's no transport.
I'm
form or
not changing the
anything.
transporting regulations. It's just the tagging,
Okay.
but they do need that code.
Nothing is placed on the carcass, not the antlers, not the meat,
No.
nothing. Nothing stays with the meat anymore. You remove that part.
Yeah, law enforcement felt comfortable removing that from it.
I got some of those in the bottom of my freezer. You can have too.
Exactly.
You're still going to send out paper tags. Do you have plans next year to be an opt-in? Do you want to tag or e-tag, or is that
It's an ongoing conversation. That's where we want to evolve to. So yes, where you have to opt to either you want a physical tag or you're an e-tag. You don't know when that will roll out will be the next version, but that is in the works. We first want to get the first version out and then evolve from there.
okay? You can have both. Just going through my questions. What about wounded game? Is there a question in there about that?
Yes.
Because the full harvest survey is right there. You didn't show all those screens.
I
that you
did
go
not,
through.
just because it would have been, yeah, but it's going to be the same harvest survey questions that you receive now. They'll just show like, how many days did you hunt? Did you wound anything? All those questions will be there. Yes.
Will the harvest survey also be in there if
Mhm.
you don't kill one?
Yeah. So the first question that pops up will say, did you harvest? And if you hit
Okay.
no, it will say, okay.
Your other
And
questions?
Did you wound? And if you say yes, then it's good. But that's the very first question is, did you harvest?
Okay. I think that answers, there's no sizing, or that's on those further pages you didn't
Those are
show.
like of the.
How many points?
Yep, that's on
and
the further.
that-
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll have all the same questions that you're currently asked now. They want to show every single like slide. And some units will have different questions versus some other units, because we can tailor those questions a lot better, especially like on the Zion unit where we have the condor, the non-lead. So, we can ask questions about that. So we can tailor based on hunt numbers a lot easier now that it's going to be, harvest surveys are going to be hosted in-house. So we have a lot more flexibility on hunt number questions.
When I take an animal that I've killed into my taxidermist now, I just write some numbers down and
You
here.
need to give them that harvest code, and that
Okay.
they have a system in themselves that they can log.
because it's usually like their permit number and they have all that, but that
That harvest code will show them what they need.
the harvest code is what they're gonna need
Yep.
for their log. Okay.
We have a different database for them that they can use that will show, that can log all that information. So it's a pretty cool system.
Okay.
So they are developers, it's all of our IT, DTS staff that's developed it. So it's not been any additional costs or anything. It's actually going to save us money in the long run because we can less papers printed, but our DTS has put a lot of thought into it. They've worked through all the issues other states have had. So it's exciting,
Mhm.
to when hopefully we can get this to roll out.
I'm out of questions. Sorry, guys.
I've got one.
Gary?
Yeah.
So do you have all your officers on board with this? Do they e-tag or paper tag?
Yeah. Yes, they're on board. They know it's coming out. They know that they'll, be watching for it. But yeah, they're working. Some of them at first, but now we work through all the kinks over the years with them and work closely with law enforcement. They like it. So they like where we've ended up.
And hopefully your phone doesn't die, Gary. He's got a code somewhere, but it's dead. All right. Any other questions? Questions from the public? Brooklyn? Yeah. Grab that microphone.
I'm sure that other states have already worked this out, but how are you going to keep people from double tagging? I mean, you go up, you shoot, you tag it with your personal, like your physical tag. You go up the next day, you're some very lucky human that gets another one. And then you have your digital tag. How do
We have law enforcement for that. And no
Yeah.
matter what we do, we're not going to stop poachers from poaching. Unfortunately, if you're going to deceive the system, you're going to deceive it no matter what we have out there. But our law enforcement's very, very active, and they're they're really good. It happens now. You can go down to Walmart and get a duplicate, so you can actually have 2 physical tags in your pocket. So that whole thing is something that can go on right now. But yeah, they're going to do bad things no matter what we put out there. We just want to manage for the majority of our public and give them a great thing that's out there for the technology that we have now.
So on your schedule, once this is approved, it could be announced that every valid tag is now converted to also be an e-tag. Like I already have my tags in my account, but they mean nothing, right? They say this is not valid for hunting. It'll convert every valid tag.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not an opt-in.
Yep. Now, once we roll out the new version of the app that allows e-tagging, it'll be a little different, and you can see like e-tag next to it, and you'll be able to click on it.
Cool. Questions from the public? All right, public comments that we got in. We got a couple.
Again, we had those same 3 people commented. All 3 strongly agree, a weighted average of 5. And the only comment was, will people have both e-tag and physical tag? So Lindy hit on that.
Sounds good. Thank you. No public comment cards on this one. So we will open it up to RAC discussion or entertain a motion. Any concerns, thoughts, changes we need to make?
I'll make a motion so Chad doesn't have to. I motion that we accept as presented.
Motion by Chuck to accept as presented. We have a second.
I'll be happy to say.
All right. We got a second from Chris. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous in favor. Okay. Thank you, Lindy, so much. That ends our action items for tonight. Appreciate everybody's attendance. Other news before we close. So this board meeting will happen August 21st up in Farmington. And then go into effect after that. Our next RAC meeting will be held in Richfield, and it will be on September 2nd, which is a Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. So if you're looking at one of the agendas in front of you, it does have a wrong date on there. It will be the 2nd. That's confirmed, right, Teresa? Confirmed. Okay, so September 2nd at the Richfield DNR complex. And they're working on the agenda, I believe, still for that one. They've got some items, some mid-plan review, mountain goat sheep, fishing. It's got a bunch of stuff. So should be a good one. But we appreciate everybody's attendance today, dealing with some technical problems and being here. This is an easy one. Expect more, you new RAC members, at future meetings, a lot more comments. But we appreciate everybody being here tonight and sharing your thoughts and views and helping vote. So that'll be the next meeting. We'll go ahead and adjourn. Do I need a motion to adjourn? Sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't. Does anybody not want to adjourn? All right, we're adjourning. Thank you.